We're back with Susi Oddball, and this is part 2 of the interview. Go ahead, Susi.
Hello, my name is Susi Maxwell Stewart. Then, when I'm talking about, I was called Susan Not. And so if you put that in the register, it'd be either Not Susan or Snot, S-Not. So, of course, I got a lot of teasing for that. So I'm going to talk about my boarding school. Now, I'd just been to an Irish-Italian school. I'd gone to Italy when I was 10 with my friend Maria Cascioli, and that was brilliant. So I was kind of equipped for boarding school, but I wasn't equipped for the class difference in boarding school. I was a young girl who had just come from working class housing estate with a Cockney accent and everything, and suddenly I was in a school that was extremely posh. You had to get your uniform from John Lewis's, and it was a totally different world. So I was introduced.
Did they have elocution lessons?
Oh yes, I had a lady. We used to call them execution lessons.
Yes.
And I had a lady called Madam Hampton who used to wear fox fur around her neck, and I used to tease her no end by. I'd talk really, really lovely, and then suddenly I'd go, "Ta-da, madam!" and she'd go, "No!" and throw her fox fur all over the place. Anyway, we had great fun in those days. It was a real learning curve for me. I made lots and lots of really nice friends. I had no problem with culture.
Did you keep in touch with any of your friends?
I'll tell you a little bit about that. So anyway, at the school, one of my favourite things was to get out of I didn't like being confined. You know, I was quite a free child, and I didn't like being confined. So my
free spirit.
My objective was to get out of homework and to get out of the school as much as I could. And so we were supposed to only visit once every month for visiting weekend.
How old were you then?
I started at school at 11, and my cousin was there at the time, and she was the one who convinced my mum that I should go there. And she got a whole full scholarship with the council, and she later became a painter, and she's got portraits in the National Gallery and the Portrait
what's
Gallery.
Her name?
Wendy Elia.
And how many years were you actually at this school?
I was at the school from 11 till 16.
Okay, your formative years.
Yes, and I was always top of my class, but always in the B stream, alpha stream later on. So alpha, beta, I was always in the beta stream. So anyway, I learnt very quickly that there was quite a lot of class difference.
Yes.
And money being the objective for one. Now, my pocket money was very meagre.
How much would it have been?
I don't remember what I started with, but I do remember what I finished with when I was 16, and that was with 50p. It was a 10-shilling note. But that had to get me home as well.
Would that be a week?
Yeah, that was for the week, and that used to have to get me home as well.
And did you have a tuck shop?
Later years, not at the beginning.
Right.
You used to go down, you were allowed permission to go to Crystal Palace with staff on a Saturday afternoon, as long as you didn't eat in public, and you were allowed to shop.
What were you buying?
Food, mainly.
Didn't they feed you properly in the school?
Well, very, very soon after I went to the school, I was a fussy eater, remember. Very soon after I went to the school, I realised that my food patterns were not the same as
you weren't vegetarian then, though, were you?
I became vegetarian when I was at the school, when I was about 15.
Okay.
Just before I left, about a year before I left.
So there would have been a stigma about that as well.
Oh, yeah, but there was a stigma about me anyway, because I was a really good tennis player. Okay. So my escape, this is what I was coming to, my escape was sports.
Okay.
So I was in the netball team, the rounders team, and the tennis team. And all my boarding school life, I spent playing tennis and doing lots of sports. And then I also joined the Legion of Mary because it helped you to go out and do good works outside the school. And we used to go and meet the boys at the wash when we used to wash up at the old people's home.
And what about singing?
And we had ballroom dancing.
I was going to say singing and dancing.
We had a lady called Miss Hirsch, and she was lovely. And music was one of my loves in my life. And I was in the violin. I was in the orchestra.
Was that
playing the violin.
classical then?
It was classical, yeah. And I remember one day my mum coming straight from work and in a hurry, and she came rushing into prize day, and she knocked the violin stands all over, and they went like a concertina. They all knocked down, and I nudged my friend and said, "That's my mum." But I had a really good friend called Teresa Keegan, whose parents unfortunately died in a car accident, but her uncle and aunt were Huberts, and they were in Air France, managing directors and stuff. But she would never take me home to their house, but she took me home to her other uncles and aunts, and that was a doctor. And I went to the tennis club there because I was the Cockney kid who went to the tennis club. I also had the first experience of theatre from her boyfriend and her boyfriend gave us a box of chocolates each for the theatre. I remember that. And I loved the theatre, and that was my first, it wasn't my first experience, but it was an experience I remember.
Remind me where the school was?
The school was in Crystal Palace. It was
Okay, so it was like
Virgo Fidelis, Nuns of the Faithful Virgin.
Right.
And there was Our Lady School, which was a secondary school attached to it,
Right.
which was their charity work, so they said.
Right.
My first encounter of theatre was when I was 5 in Islington, and it was the Little Angel Theatre.
Oh,
and I used to be so small, I used to have to go on tiptoe, and I used to watch John Wright carve his puppets. Amazing experience. And then when I was 7 or 8, our school went for the first time to Little Angel Theatre, and I saw the puppets in action, and it was The Little Mermaid, and it's the most beautiful, beautiful production. And so I was entranced even at that age. Anyway, so lots of things happened at boarding school. That's another story, okay? But let's go on to what happened just before the end of boarding school.
Yeah.
I met the world coach, Vic Edwards. Yvonne Goolagong was visiting for the day, and she was Yvonne Goolagong, who later became Yvonne Corley, who won Wimbledon, had come with the world coach, Vic Edwards, to give us a lesson.
Tennis lesson.
Tennis lesson, all of us. But unfortunately, it was so badly planned because all the older ones who played tennis were in a GCE exam, or it was an O-level exam in those days. So we were taking our O-level thinking about our tennis coach coming, the world tennis coach, while all the younger ones were being coached. And the nicest thing is, there was a little girl there who I coached, and Vic Edwards said, "Who coached you? They've done a wonderful job." So I can always be proud of that. And anyway, Yvonne Goolagong.
You still play tennis today, don't you?
I did, yeah. I've been told not to play impact
because you
sport.
have a problem with your ankle, right?
Yeah, but I still sort of hold the bat and hit the ball. I love tennis.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, Yvonne Goolagong was sitting with us after our exam, and we had some chocolate, and Vic Edwards said, "Don't you give her any of that chocolate." And I remember having to sneak some chocolate to her because she really wanted some chocolate.
All chocolate.
Anyway, after that, the teacher told my mother, who came to the school, I think it's time for you to take Susie away from the school. Susan, I was called.
Yeah.
Because she's she needs to. She's more creative and she needs to go away.
Yeah.
So I went to Further Education College. I went to Kingsway College
in London.
Holborn, yeah.
Right.
And I met my friend Edelweiss, who I still know now.
Oh, Edel, you've mentioned Edelweiss, yes.
She was my friend in primary school.
Right.
We'd first met when I was 5 years old, and she was 5 years old.
Okay.
And I met her again at Kingsway College.
Yeah, yeah.
And we had the most amazing experience because that was the time of the psychedelia.
Oh, did you have some magical mushrooms together?
Well,
Huh?
who knows? But we did have some interesting experiences together. We did a play called Don Juan.
Yes.
And I was Sganarelle, I was the servant. And the rehearsals was in Soho Square. And it would never happen now in the teacher's home.
Right. Well, we'll come back to you, Susie, in part 3. Thank you.